Hi, welcome to Stat Sisters. My name is Carrie, and I talk each week with my sister Erin about all things nursing, with the occasional Harry Potter thrown in. We talk about the nursing topics that you care about. We also chat about nurses in the news, and most importantly, answer your questions. Good morning, Erin. How are you?
I am doing okay. How are you?
I'm a little low energy right now.
Well, it's because you've been really busy. I would imagine.
Yeah, I'm hoping this podcast perks me up because I need a little fifth wind.
Well, here's hoping.
So, news in my life. I am on my last week of work here.
Yes, at your Texas branch of St. Mungo's.
Yes. So
Before the big transfer.
Yes. So actually, when this podcast comes out, it'll be my last day, and I'll be when y'all be listening to the new podcast, and I'll be at Top Golf with my friends celebrating.
Woo la la.
So tell me what you've been doing lately.
Honestly, I kind of worked for a couple days and then just did mom stuff. We had just kind of a family day yesterday, and kids had a birthday party to go to, and I'm planning gardening. I'm getting excited. I'm planning flower beds. Yay! And I'm looking at veggie garden stuff. I'm always start looking at tips and tricks and whatnot this time of year, because there's always something new and you're like, oh, I've got to try that, and maybe my tomatoes will be 6 feet tall. So I've been kind of working on all of that. So hopefully we'll start getting our garden and our beds prepped this next week. So anyway, that's kind of what I've been up to. Alrighty. Well, what have we got planned today? I know you're kind of excited about some of these topics.
So our first topic today, since Nurses Week is coming up,
happy
I wanted to talk
nurse
about
birthday to everybody.
Yeah. Since it's coming up in about a month, almost exactly a month from now. And so we are getting ready for that. And usually nurses receive something from their leadership or hospitals. And so I kind of wanted to just talk about nurse recognition and what was your favorite Nurses Week gift, swag? What did you get that you were yes? And what did you get that maybe you were why?
I know. Wow, thanks. You shouldn't have. Yeah, and that's a good one. I want to hear back from people, and I want pictures. Make us jealous. What's the cool stuff you got, and what was your favorite? Or maybe heads up, bosses, don't waste your time.
Yeah.
Please don't give us this again, or anybody else. So, all right. So, are you asking me, or was that a general question to the universe?
I am asking you.
Okay.
And the universe, but I want to hear specifically from you right now, and then from our listeners in the comments or text or whatever.
All right. Since the universe can't answer immediately, but I can. I would say I always like food, so that's a big one. I like it when they do something extra, whether it's something small each day, there's Muffin Monday and Taco Tuesday or Waffle Wednesday or whatever. And so I think that's kind of fun, and it spreads it out. But it's because, of course, for most of us nurses in the hospital, we don't work Monday through Friday, and so you kind of hit a lot of shifts that way. And so I always like food. I think that's fun. But I think other than a big fat check, which of course doesn't happen, that would be nice. I wouldn't mind that for Nurses Week. I like it when we get something, it doesn't have to be something big, but even I like it when it's kind of unit based and about our employer, where we work. Maybe a t-shirt that says, St. Mungo's Surgical Department or something like that. Kind of some unit pride swag. I think that's fun because it's a gift, and everybody likes gifts, and it's something I can use or maybe wear at work. And of course it's, free advertising pretty much, but I don't know. Those probably
Yes.
are my favorite combinations. Or you can give me a gift card, but that doesn't happen either. Movie tickets. Movie tickets are
No.
fun.
You know, I think most nurses would say, yeah, I've have enough cups and bags. Give me Starbucks gift card. But when you give a gift card, you have to tax it.
Yes, which is so
So,
lame.
so yeah, it really is lame because we would much rather get a $5 gift card most of the time to something than a $5 cup or a $5
Yeah,
bag.
t-shirt, something or other. I know. And it always, even though we know it's not, I would think, except for maybe our new nurses, realize that they have to be taxed. But even when that happens, and it's not the management's decision, to tax something, it feels kind of cheap. It feels kind of like we're giving you $10, but you have to pay for three of it. It feels like you're
Yes,
getting
I know. It's
cheated.
not
So
cool. Yeah, I
that's
don't
why
like
I think,
that.
like, steer clear. My employer years ago, it wasn't Nurses Week, it was for, gosh, what was it? Oh, I think it was Christmas. They used to give out, I don't know, like $25 gift certificates to like a local grocery store, essentially like to pay for your turkey or something like that. And then they stopped doing that. But yeah, it always feels a little like you're getting cheated when you have to pay for part of your even though you're not paying for it when it takes it out of your gift card.
Yeah,
So I think you just get a lot people
yeah,
probably got a little grumpy about that. So
yeah. It's not a good optic. That's
there
what we
you
call it.
go.
And
Yes,
yeah, it's not a good
exactly.
optic.
What about you?
So I I think the worst thing we got, and it wasn't that it was bad, but we got these bags, and because they also sell them like in places like California that has very strict disclosure laws about like cancer causing agents, there was a big fat disclaimer in this bag that's supposed to be for your it's like a cold pack, but it was big, so you could like put like cold stuff in it and take it to the beach or something. And there was a big paper in it, like a regular size sheet of paper, saying that it may cause cancer.
Oh my gosh. We appreciate your efforts.
So
Here's some carcinogens.
yeah.
Oh my goodness.
And so people were freaking out, and a lot of people don't understand, like, because didn't grow up in California, so they don't understand, like, there's cancer labels on everything. And it was so funny, but also, like, a lot of people were really nervous they wouldn't use it.
Oh man. Yeah, I would have probably gone for something different if
Yeah, well,
was
and
me.
of course, when they purchased them, they had no
Oh,
idea
I'm
that that would
sure. Yeah,
come
because it's not
like
like it's
that.
listed.
Yeah,
And but I mean, I
like,
could
we'll come with
imagine,
a scary label.
they were like, "Ooh, this is cute. We could really use this."
Yeah, no, it
And
was a
then it
cute
shows
bag,
up,
and
and you're
I
like, "Well,
used it.
crud! Now it's too late to get something else." I could see the employer being like, "Oh, what are we gonna do? Just use them anyway."
Yeah, they sent out a thing saying, explaining, and I tried to, let people know, like, hey, this is different states have different
Right.
regulations, and it was just like the way that it's preserved or cured or whatever. They use formaldehyde,
Oh.
which a lot of bags are
Yeah,
do
textiles and all
use
of that.
that. Yeah.
That's true.
So anyway, I think the coolest thing I've ever seen a hospital system do is the Methodist system in Houston. They have a gala during Nurses Week, and it's
Yes.
for nurses. And they like recognize their nurses, and it's like super fancy. And everyone gets dressed up and has a fancy dinner, and it's like a big party. And I'm sure it is extremely expensive. And they do
Oh
it every
yeah.
year, and it's amazing.
See,
So
I love that
kudos to them.
idea. Yeah, good job. Yay.
And
I
it's a
like that
system
idea
wide.
because oh wow. So it's not just like a department or, sub
No,
specialty.
no, they like rent out like a huge hotel and do it
Swanky.
up.
Cool. That would be great because it's like, the Christmas party. Everybody likes to get dressed and be all fancy schmancy, get dressed up and have fun and hang out when it's not work. Because I think a lot of times we largely like our coworkers, and so it's fun to do those sort of things. And so that's neat because that's something, in my perception, when it's something they do that they quote didn't have to do, and it's something at that level, that's certainly a not have to do. Because like you said, that's got to be really pricey. But I'm sure there's a lot of buy-in by the staff who are like, this is awesome. And so every year it sounds like this major event.
Oh, yeah.
So,
yeah, I'm sure they get some sponsors and stuff, but still, I'm sure they underwrite a bunch of it, and it just has got to be expensive.
Yeah.
But that's like the fanciest thing. And then like my best gift, I like gadgets. So, like little pin lights that are screwdrivers or like those kind of things. They're not that much money, but I think I like them. Anyway, so I like gadgets. And when I worked on night shift, especially, I liked little lights.
Yes, I was just thinking that, like little lights for your badges or whatever. So when you are in ninja mode, yeah, those are fun. We got a good one a few years back. It was one of the portable, just when the portable cell phone chargers first started kind of coming out. And at first I thought like, well, that's kind of lame. I can just charge my phone to the wall adapter or in my car. I thought I'll never use this. I use it all the time. So that was really cool. Like at first I didn't think it was cool, but now I do.
No, I love it.
Let's see, another really good one. This was my husband's department. Back to food. Nothing says we love you and appreciate your efforts like a taco truck. They like reserved, I guess you would call it, a taco truck, and like had it pull up in the ambulance bay area because he worked in the ED at that time. And it just parked there for like a couple hours, and the staff would just go out and get whatever they wanted, all in the house. And their department.
Oh, that's awesome.
I know, right? I was like, what? I want to tube me up a taquito. But
that's a great idea.
So they did that, and so they parked it out there for a couple hours, I think around like 2 of the shift changes. And then they took like 2 big pans of food into the staff fridges when Taco Man finally had to leave for night shift. And so they had that. And I thought that was kind of cool because it's food, but it was like kind of neat and something a little different. And it felt, a little bigger than maybe it needed to be. And so that was fun. What about giveaways? Have you ever had that for, like, everybody gets their normal thing, but then there's like one big prize, like a raffle?
Oh, yeah.
That's always kind of fun.
Oh.
Like, I got a Kindle Fire or whatever.
Those are always fun. I never win anything, but I appreciate that they do that. I don't either,
but the excitement is there.
Yeah, I'm like, ooh, ooh. I'm like waiting for the email.
I could.
One thing I love is a couple of, I think all the hospitals I worked for have people come and do like chair massages.
Ooh, yes.
So you get like a 15-minute massage.
Rolling my shoulders.
Yeah.
Yeah. I just want them to round on the hospital like all day long. Just, that would be phenomenal. If I ever own my own hospital, I will have a full-time staff masseuse. Because I'm a big believer in, a happy nurse is a happy patient.
Absolutely. I totally agree with that. At this last conference I went to, I picked up a whole bunch of little tips. And one of the sessions I went to was, and I'm probably going to murder her name, but I'm going to try. It's Dr. Sharian, or Sharian. And her first name's, I'm not even going to try. I don't want to disrespect her, but
her first name is Doctor.
Her first name is Dr. Sharian. She's a doctor of nursing, or she's a PhD actually, I think. And she shared that there are different ways to give recognition to nurses. And so we just talked about some of the ways, and that's like giving people awards like at the gala, and then giving them gifts. So there's 3 different ways. There's formal recognition, which are awards, honors, and Yeah. And then there's like informal, which is verbal and like written and like opportunities for growth. And the third way is like financial, so raises and bonuses and everything. And nurses like to get recognized in all these different ways. But it was interesting because the research that she did that she was talking about, guess which one nurses like the best?
I'm kind of lost because I don't see the food and trinkets section. Where does that fit?
That'd be informal. Like I'm going to give you something.
We're going to put that under informal.
Yeah.
Okay. So, this is my answer, and it's not me, but I know a lot of nurses like formal recognition. That would be my answer. I could be totally wrong. It's not my thing. I would like, give me the gift card or the candy bar. That's an immediate gratification, or give me the swanky gala. I think that's fun. But I would say I think probably on a whole, nurses are a little fancy pants, and I think they would like formal recognition. Final answer.
Okay, so that is actually what I thought too. I thought that I thought that they would like the formal recognition best, but they like it the least.
Well, there you go. So I'm not alone.
Yeah,
because I'm like, I don't care.
Right, and she was talking about maybe it's because it doesn't happen very often. Like you could go your whole career and be an awesome nurse and not have any formal recognition or awards. A lot of times people that get awards, and I'm not saying this is bad, like, or wrong, but they have like pursued that award. So they've either like applied for it, or they like asked people to apply, like nominate them. And so that isn't always something that people feel comfortable doing. And I know like every year there's like a lot of opportunities for me to nominate nurses, and I don't take all those opportunities, even though I work with amazing nurses.
Right, because we're busy or just for whatever reason. I know I've had many times in my career, nominate your favorite physical therapist, or, somebody on the rehab team and why. Nominate your favorite coworker. And in the back of my mind, I'm like, oh yeah, so-and-so is just great. And there was that one time, and I can maybe even like, there was that one time they did da-da-da-da-da. I think maybe once I've actually taken the time to do it.
Yeah, so it's something that we need to do better at. But luckily, that's like the lowest thing that people care about. Even though it's really nice when it happens, but it's like what they don't care as much. They do care about financial rewards, but they mostly care about the informal.
There you go. I think it makes us feel good.
Yeah, so and it's free most of the time. It's free to say, thank you for coming off your lunch to help me when I had a patient coding. I appreciate it.
Right.
Like,
right.
And that immediate, or like a thank you card, or like an email out to the unit, like saying, hey, we had a really hard day, and these nurses like pulled it together and helped. Like just that kind of informal, immediate recognition is much more valuable to people. In general.
Well, there you go. And it makes sense. I like that because I know for me, it does. It makes you feel like your efforts are recognized, and that you as an individual nurse, that they see you and they see when you excel or when you guys pull together as a team, and that always feels good, whether it's from a coworker or from management. So good, cool. I'm pleasantly surprised by that answer. Do you think we would be more people would choose financial as their favorite if we got tips and stuff, like waiters? Like if we thought like, hey, you rocked that rapid response today. Fist bump, here's a $50 paycheck boost.
In some countries, you do get tips as a nurse.
What?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, some nurses,
cool.
I think somewhere, I can't remember which country in the Middle East, but she had went over there to work. She was from the UK, but she had gone over to work in Saudi Arabia or somewhere like close to there. And maybe they don't do it anymore, but back when she was there, the patient families and everything would tip you money.
Wow. Now, there's days I definitely think I deserve getting a tip.
I don't think that that's probably a good practice, but it was interesting that
No.
happened. I was like, I've never heard of that.
I know, maybe like on your paycheck every pay period, there's like a tally system, number of times you caught a med error, number of times you finished your med pass early. like
You're
and
like,
like you
yes.
can like dollar bills, yo. Incentivize me.
I know. Well, like the studies about why people are dissatisfied with their jobs, like money is almost never the top one. I don't even think I've seen it where it's the top one.
Dissatisfaction.
Yeah, their job satisfaction is dependent much more on like, do they like their boss? Do they like their coworkers? Do they feel like satisfied in their work? Like that means something?
Yeah. No, and I know many people who stay where they get paid much less than they could maybe if they went to work for the competitor, but they stay because they love their coworkers or because they love the system or, whatever for a variety of reasons. So yes, money's important at the bottom, at the end of the day, of course we have to pay our mortgage and put gas in our tank and feed our children, but it is not the only thing that drives us. So that's kind of nice. We're not snobs who need formal recognition. We're not greedy misers who only want money. We're kind of a healthy in between as nurses. We like this informal recognition. So taco trucks and my PS, if I could add one, is I love it when my manager knows me well enough that they know not only does Erin like formal, informal, or monetary recognition, but also like one step further, Erin likes dark chocolate. And so when I get my attaboys from my awesome boss and she's like, you did so great, you took that extra couplet, or you really helped out when that baby was going down the crapper, here's some dark chocolate. I know that is like tailor made for Erin. And so not only I feel good that I'm getting an attaboy, but I'm feeling even better that they remember because they don't just have like 3 employees to remember. And so I really love that. And I think we all like the cookie with our name on it, figuratively speaking, or in my case, literally speaking. But it just makes I think we just like feeling like our efforts are recognized because we work so hard at our jobs. So anything that makes us feel like an individual instead of just a sheep, it just makes me feel like, thanks, I'm so special. And it makes me, I like get a little like pip in my step. So.
Well, it's funny that you brought up your boss because one of the last things that she shared with me that I want to share with you all is that she spoke with leaders as well as bedside nurses, and leaders are motivated by the same thing. Leaders want recognition from their staff, which that happens rarely.
Yes, it's true. It kind of trickles downhill, and we expect it from our management. But I think there's a big population who probably doesn't even consider giving their boss recognition, and if they do, maybe it's an even smaller population that does it just on like boss's day or those kind of things, or if the boss literally went the extra mile for them personally maybe that day and got them some extra help or something. But unfortunately I think we have a bad perception that for those people who do give their management accolades that they're kind of brown nosers. And so I think it's a little discouraged, not like officially,
by peers,
but
not by leaders.
By your, if you're a staff nurse
we need that.
No, right. You're not buttering up your boss. Well, I mean, maybe you are buttering up your boss, but that to give your boss a compliment or a thank you doesn't necessarily mean, you're trying to get in good with the boss or you're buttering. You're just being a good person, like you're just paying it forward.
Right. And we know the difference.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Your coworkers might not because maybe they're being petty, but
yeah, we can definitely tell when it's sincere. And one thing that I learned a few years ago when before I was a formal leader, was the concept of managing up, like managing your boss, like because you have a responsibility as an employee to make it kind of easy for your boss in some ways and like kind of help them to learn how to be a better boss. Does that make sense?
Oh, absolutely, because
It's
some of them are new, some of them aren't new, but regardless, I think it's always a work in progress, and they need you and you need them.
yeah, so it's like a two-way relationship, and if you want your boss to be more engaged with you, then give them that feedback, but not like you need to be more engaged, but like,
Right.
hey, and like I'm interested in this. What are you interested in? Or
Right.
like when your boss does something you like and you want them to repeat,
Tell them.
tell them. Yeah.
It's like positive reinforcement. It's like training a child, you know, like,
Yeah.
good
Yeah.
job. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yay. I love it when you do that. Maybe don't use your
I
mommy
know.
voice, but
Yeah. So Google about managing up because it's a really cool concept.
it is a good concept. And I will say it, my branch of St. Mungo's in the last couple of years, they've been really encouraging that, not just on like bed to, like shift change at the bedside, but just in general to manage up. And at first we thought it was all a little cheesy, but it creates a good environment of camaraderie, and you feel like, your teammate has your back, whether it's, a coworker or a different discipline or your boss. I think it really creates a more cohesive and friendly environment. So I like managing up. I'm a believer now.
Good.
All right.
Awesome.
I think we're ready to move on.
Okay. What is our next topic?
Aaron's favorite kind of pizza. No, wait, that was my personal notes. My bad, just kidding. Okay, so our next topic, would you like me to intro it? Or would
Yeah.
Okay, so I think I'll intro it because I feel like you're going to be doing more talking. It's usually me,
Yeah.
but it's from Carrie's Fancy Pants nursing conference that she just got back from. And for those of you who listen to our last few podcasts, I've made a commitment that I'm going to be attending a nursing conference in the next year. So I'm getting in the zone here. But so at the nursing conference, one of the many things that Carrie got so smart about was this topic of incivility. And she came back and she was talking about it with me. And I was like, what? And I said, what's incivility? I said, what's that? And she had to kind of educate me on it. And we thought it was kind of interesting. So we wanted to bring that to you guys, our loyal listeners.
Yeah. All 30.
All
All
30,
30
I'm
of
going to
you.
say 37. I think we could round up.
You think we've grown?
Or I'm going to be hopeful. But, and I'd like to hear some feedback on this. And I would like to think that we're going to kind of run the gamut. I think there'll be some people, I know guys, you're sitting in your cars and you're like, tell us what it is. I need to know. I think there's going to be some people who are like, preach girl. And there's going to be other people who will be like, yeah, I don't really identify with that. But here we go.
Okay. Well, if you don't know, I mean, if you don't experience incivility, then yay. Yay.
Right.
I'm so glad for you. But most people do. And so incivility is like the new buzzword for bullying or lateral violence. And I think everyone has had experience with bullying because it is prevalent in both nursing school and in nursing. And even it definitely is prevalent in nursing from different areas. It's also in every part of healthcare.
Yes. Well, and I think there's probably quite a few people out there who like me, my initial reaction was like, I'm not bullied at work. I'm a grown woman, like I wouldn't let that happen. But then as we've discussed it and I've read this, some of the literature, there's times where I'm like, and you read actually what the definition of incivility is, I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, that did happen. But we just kind of chalk it off like, oh, that's just so and so, or they're just
Exactly.
having a bad day, And then I start thinking like, have I perpetrated this? So anyway, I wonder if there's people who are going like, because that was my initial reaction. I didn't recognize it, I think, for what it was.
Well, let me share the actual definition so we can catch everybody up.
Oh yeah, sorry guys.
I gotta find it.
Cut this wild, awkward pause.
Okay. And this is from Logan et al. So I'm just going to say Logan et al. All of our information is going to be in the drop down, like we call it the doobly-doo in the YouTube, or it's going to be it'll be on our website, so you'll be able to access it, and you can actually access the actual presentations for free through the Henderson deposit or repository, and so I'll make that link available to y'all.
Okay, so on Stat Sisters, guys, statsisters.com. Check it out if you're interested.
Oh, I need to say the name, not just the website.
I know, they're like, what website? Maybe they're new listeners.
That's true. Okay, so incivility in nursing is a global issue, so it is something that everyone experiences around the world. And I actually asked in one of the forums, so in one of the general forums, I asked the foreign nurses, because it was an international conference, although it was based in the United States, if they have the same kind of incivility problems, and the answer was absolutely. So it is a global problem. It destroys relationships, creates barriers to learning. It hinders collaboration, which, I mean, that's, I think, an obvious statement. It decreases productivity because you're so worried about what someone said or how they're going to react, or that someone just yelled at you. You're not doing your best work. And negatively impacts patient satisfaction and outcomes. And it was declared a sentinel event in 2008 by the Joint Commission. So it's a big deal.
Dang. Yeah. Right. Big deal, people.
It is a big deal. And it does affect outcomes. If you've ever been in like a root cause analysis or like a debrief of something that didn't go well and you're trying to figure out why, it's almost always communication, and a lot of the times the communication is poor because of somebody that was incivil.
Well, that's unfortunate, because that's something that's very much avoidable.
It is. So 85 to 96% of nursing students experience incivility. So we've talked, I mean, there's a common saying in nursing that nurses eat their young, and it starts right in nursing school.
It's very true.
Either the professors, other nursing students, or the nurses in the hospitals that are training the new students.
Yeah.
It comes from a lot of different areas. And of course, and don't leave physicians out of that.
Right. So to catch everybody up, because we're talking about it and you may not know what it is, like I said, I wasn't really clear what incivility was, but when I was reading about it, it says phenomena disrupting harmony in the teaching learning experience. It's behavior targeted toward human dignity with the intent to inflict psychological or physiological suffering, and is, of course, unacceptable to social norms. So these are things that are, not just normal conversation, bumps and blips that happen, something that's, socially unacceptable that people recognize and go, oh. And again, that it's something that's intentional, that you're actually, it actually sounds really bad when you think about that. Targeted towards human dignity with the intent to inflict psychological or physiological suffering. Ouch.
Yeah.
That sounds so nasty.
It doesn't have to be like premeditated.
Right.
It can be like in the spur of the moment. Some people just react like this, but if they're saying something snarky and mean because they're trying to lash out, it doesn't matter that they liked you 5 seconds ago. They're still trying to hurt you.
Right. Or even, I think, in a tit for tat situation, well, I said it because somebody else said this, and like you said, it's a reactive environment, and so I think it can be definitely not just one-sided. It can be two-way.
Oh, yes, definitely.
For certain. I think we've all been in those awkward moments where there's been a situation, and whether you're just maybe peripherally involved or even just kind of sitting at the desk and it's happening behind you and there's two individuals and you're like, oh my goodness.
Right. And it affects, I'm gonna talk a little bit about that because it affects more than just the people involved.
Oh, absolutely.
So in one of the studies, who is this by? Logan. Okay, so this is still Logan et al. So they did a qualitative study, and so they did a lot of interviews about incivility, and they asked nurses. I think they asked nursing students. They asked people, what is incivility, and they said things like it's a nurse threatening another nurse in a rude or belittling way, or when a nurse is disrespectful, negative actions or body language, verbal or nonverbal, and
Eye
it can
rolling.
affect patient care.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so it's not just what you say, it's how you say it, and it's your body language.
Mm-hmm.
And then when people observed it, they felt, sometimes they felt sorry for the victim, but they felt like their peers were being ganged up on, but they didn't really know what to do. They felt helpless, and they wanted to intervene, but they didn't.
Right. Well, I think
And
when
so
those...
you feel powerless.
You do. And I think when those social norms we talked about are violated, it's a conundrum. It throws us off. It shocks us because we're all adults and we're educated adults and we know how to use our big words and express our feelings, appropriately. So when that doesn't happen, it really it kind of like throws your world a little bit, and you don't know how to react because it's a little surreal. You don't think that actually, did that person just really say that to me? Or did that person just say that to my coworker? And so I've heard people after the fact be like, man, I wish I would have said something. I felt so bad for nurse so-and-so, or whatever, I saw her crying, and, but they just kind of, I don't think you expect it. And so when you violate those social norms, I think that perpetrator kind of has that benefit because it throws, it's such an unexpected thing. And it can be real fast sometimes and it's over. So.
Yeah, they talked about how you have like two basic reactions. One, you feel very vulnerable, and the other that you're angry. And
Right.
so and you may feel both of those or one of those, or other things, but I think those are probably the most common. And the nurses that did this research, they said that they felt disrespected and looked down upon. They felt bad and disgusted, and they just didn't know how to react. And then they felt angry, and they wished that they had power or authority to like strike back.
Right.
And they felt like sometimes that they couldn't control their own behavior when they responded, and they used incivility back.
Right, because it was like a knee jerk, especially I think if you're being treated that way, and you hear this, like if you're listening to the verbiage that we're using, it's very similar with, like an abuse mentality. There's a lot of especially when people are feeling insecure, if somebody's attacking you professionally or even personally, you feel very insecure and like, it's hard for you to defend yourself. It's hard to come up with something on the spur of the moment, something that is civil. How do I diffuse this situation? How do I stand up for myself? How do I not make this worse? Because it's unexpected and it feels like a personal attack. Whether it was an intentional thing or not, I think it's just really, it's hard to deal with.
It is, and I've experienced this, in different places, but there's 3 specific times when I experienced this where I didn't really even know how to respond because I feel so degraded. And those were all times with physicians. So, one of them was a resident, and 2 were attendings, but their basic message was I was asking them to do something, and either they didn't know enough about it, because one was a really new physician and one was a resident, and so they kind of just like lashed out. And then one of them was, I don't know what his problem was that day, but he just wanted to, I think he was bothered that I was calling him to a delivery, and so he was like saying something. But all 3 of them questioned like if I was trying to kill the patient basically, or harm the patient with
my goodness.
my request. And in all three cases, I am absolutely sure my request was reasonable and appropriate.
Right, right.
And so, but when someone like goes after you and like says like, why are you trying to harm the patient? It's hard to come back with, well, you're not following the protocol, or or I've experienced this before and I don't understand why you're doing this care plan. Let's talk about what's best for this patient.
Right. Even when you're in the right and you're following policy, because somebody has taken it that extreme, I think, and that far, and that's such an unexpected thing, it just kind of shakes you.
Yeah, and I mean, that's the intent because they know that'll shut you up. And it did all three times.
Right. And even though you're intelligent and articulate and you knew what you were doing, because it's, and again, this is an abusive mentality. This happens, this is very common with abusive people, individuals. They turn the tables on their victim and, put the spotlight on their victim and take it to an extreme. And so the victim then feels like now they're the one who is in the wrong or under speculation, and that's not even the reality whatsoever. But it's a total mind game, and because it's gone. All of a sudden you were talking about a simple policy and now you've gone to Sentinel events. It's completely changed your mindset, and it throws you off and you lose that defense where where you would normally have your wits about you and quote policy and whatnot and interventions. And you kind of feel like, well, oh my goodness, they're talking about accusing me of trying to kill the patient. Now no matter what I say, we've already gone there, and it almost like I'm just going to sound guilty by relation because that's now in the topic, that's now in the conversation, when that's not the case whatsoever. Somebody, a bystander or an objective party would be able to look at that and say like, whoa, no, that is not even close to what we're talking about. You were talking about apples and oranges and they brought in volleyballs, but but when you're in that situation, that's what you feel like. You feel like, oh my gosh, now I'm being accused of this, and it throws you for a panic. But that is a mind game. That's an abusive mentality, and it's a manipulation tool.
It is. And so I couldn't address them in the moment because I was so flustered. But I did, just to reassure the listeners, I did go and regroup and like address the concerns I had.
Good job,
but I
Carrie.
couldn't say anything in the moment, and I was mad.
Well, do you agree that maybe sometimes that's actually the better response? And I know we're going to get to diffusion techniques. I think I just made that up here in a second. But do you think that might be the best techniques? Because I think sometimes no matter what you say, it's just that individual's gonna just run with it and twist your words. Do you think sometimes it's best to just kind of nip it and just say like, you know what, we need to table this discussion and finish it later, or maybe not even say anything? So
absolutely.
Although, I think that I'm not saying don't stand up for yourself. Just maybe it needs to be done in a different time, in a different way.
Yes, that segues perfectly well into Wayne Scott et al., who gave this great little tool.
Like I knew that.
I know, it's like you did your research. So when this whole team that spoke about this, they said that the only way to really deal with incivility is to have no tolerance for it. But like in those cases, it's not appropriate all the time to just immediately address it. And so they have this little acronym. So if you feel like if you're getting bullied or you're in an uncivil discourse or whatever, you start to cuss, C-U-S. And so instead of actually cussing...
Don't really cuss. They're like, Aaron and Carrie said that I should just start using profanity. No.
Which I think is such a clever little thing because, like, that's what you want to do.
Because you probably are wanting to cuss.
Yeah, and so, like, in one case, I'll share, like, the story short, like, a little bit of the story. So in one case with the, like, newer physician... we had a patient that needed potassium, and he like ordered a ton of potassium, but he wanted it like in like 40 of potassium, like in the 2 liter, and I mean in a liter, like 40.
40 milliequivalents per liter.
Yeah, thank you.
So definitely one of the higher infusion rates.
Yeah, but she was at risk for fluid overload, and so it was for potassium replacement. I was like, hey, you know what? We don't usually give this much fluid. We use the mini bags and we infuse it, and it comes like a 10 out of milliequivalents in a bag or whatever, and we do it over an hour. And he was like, you're going to Kravokian my patient. You're going to kill her. And I was like,
what?
What? Huh?
Are we talking about the same thing? Did you hear me right? Did I stutter?
I was like, what? I'm like, I can't even talk to you right now because you just said I wanted to like overdose your patient on potassium.
Right. I'm trying to stop their heart. Like, what the heck?
It's like,
no, that is not my end objective. I'd like to get their potassium above 2.3.
I know. So he was like upset and
oh no.
And I don't know why he said that. And at that point, I was like, he would like refuse. He was like wanted to give her all this potassium with all this fluid. And I was like, okay, well, I'm just going to talk to the person that's, your boss.
Right.
And let him deal with it. And it was resolved actually very well. And I never had any problems with him after that because I had tremendous support from the director of the service line. And so he was like, you don't talk to the charge nurse like that.
Good.
She was right.
Learning experience for that resident. I mean, in all reality, they're learning too. So
well, he wasn't a resident.
Oh,
he was
okay,
just
never
new.
mind. Okay, well, I was trying to give him the benefit of the doubt.
But he was a nice person. I don't know what happened, but
oh, gee, Monique.
Yeah, but I'll never forget that because I was
that.
like, and he said it in front of the patient.
Oh, no. Okay, time out here, boys and girls. Not that I'm going to encourage incivility ever, but please, don't do these things in front of the patients ever. There should never be disagreements between service lines or anybody in front of the patient. Take it in the hall. Go to the break room. Go to the conference room. Don't do it at the nurse's station. Don't do it with your patients. Okay. Soapbox done. Like, come on, we're grown-ups here. So I like that, and I don't know about your branch, but where I am at St. Mungo's, the CUS acronym, those are actually buzzwords that they're encouraging us as staff to use. Whether it's in like at the lower level where it's just a concern for you to, instead of saying, I disagree with that or I don't think you're right, because that's very confrontational. And again, we don't want to do anything at the bedside, especially that's going to look bad and make our patients, because we're trying to manage up, we don't want to dissuade them. And maybe they're just making an honest mistake. And so I could say, oh, Carrie, I'm a little concerned about that. I don't know if that's quite, could we maybe discuss that? And so if you're using that concern or I'm uncomfortable in this situation, I'm uncomfortable with that order, to use that word, and then scared. When I think you hit that S level when you DEFCON 5, that's where you're not having that direct interaction with the person where the incivility is happening, but that's the verbiage you're taking to your charge nurse or you're taking to your boss, or in that case you were the charge nurse, so you were going to their boss. But when you say, instead of like kind of we pussyfoot around sometimes, can we say pussyfoot? Sometimes we tiptoe around. Sometimes we tiptoe around because we don't want to be offensive, but it's a little empowering, I think, that we have those buzzwords. We can say, this is the level I was concerned with this physician's behavior. The handoff I got from that nurse, it made me very uncomfortable, or the environment that was very uncomfortable, or to the point where I'm going to, Carrie's my charge nurse. Carrie, I'm really scared about this situation. There's something about that patient in room, 7 that's making me scared, or this doctor. And so I like knowing that it's a definition, number one, and it's a word that hopefully, because we're all receiving the same training, that if I'm saying it to somebody else that I'm reaching out to help, or maybe even the person at a lower level that I'm having a conflict with, that hopefully that hopefully, when they hear me say concerned or I'm uncomfortable, that it actually kind of gets through maybe a little bit. Maybe they were just having a bad day, and when they hear me go, I'm a little concerned about that, they would go, oh, okay, hang on. If Erin's saying that, this is actually what she means.
Yeah. I
So
like that.
yeah, it was, I kind of, at first, again, I think with most new things, you're kind of like, oh, that's silly. I can articulate my needs. But sometimes we don't understand each other. Again, communication issues. But if we all know the definitions of CUS, hopefully I should be listening to my coworkers if I'm hearing that verbiage. So,
Okay. I love those examples. Thank you. I think it's really cool that your branch of St. Mungo's does that. And so soon that'll be my branch.
I know, and you'll be able to cuss with the best of us.
Yes, I'm good at cussing. Yeah, so that'll be awesome. So, do we have any questions? We don't have any questions.
I don't think so. I think we kind of actually worked our questions in earlier, about the Nurses Week. We were wanting, well, actually, we were kind of asking the question. We were wanting the feedback about what was your best and worst. I want to know the worst ones too. And if you have pictures, I want to see those.
Yes, we love pictures. Okay, so for this week's Nurses in the News, we are actually doing a kind of a retro story, but it's been in the news again recently because there's a lot more focus on the topic of second victim. So this nurse that's in this story experienced extreme incivility from her coworkers and from the people in her hospital and had a very bad outcome. So Erin, you want to explain about this story?
Yes, and we're talking about the nurse Kimberly Hyatt, and she was an experienced critical care nurse at Seattle Children's, and this was back in 2011, I believe, when this happened, and she killed herself 7 months after she made a med error that resulted in the death of one of her patients, which was a baby. She overdosed the baby. I think she made I think it was like a 10 times. So to me, it sounds like a decimal
Right.
moving error. But so she was an experienced nurse. She was a phenomenal nurse from every report that I've ever read on this story from the beginning, and I've followed it kind of over the years. She was a 24-year nurse, and she worked at Seattle Children's, which of course is a great children's hospital, very prestigious. These nurses are highly trained, and she ended up dosing 1.4 grams of calcium chloride instead of 140 milligrams. And when they went back in investigation, and of course I'm sure any nurses here are like, oh my gosh, that's a huge dose for an adult, let alone a neonate, a baby. I don't believe it's a neonate, but when they did the investigation and looked back, this is the only serious medical mistake she had ever made in her 24-year career. Which is so sad, because I've said it before, we all make med errors, and if you meet a nurse who says she hasn't made or they haven't made a med error, they're lying or they're completely
Right.
oblivious, because it happens. It just does. We are human, and to err is human, and it is true. We don't like to talk about it, and we all like to pretend we're perfect, and we do our 6 rights every single time, and therefore we're never going to make a mistake, but it happens. And this was the only serious med error she'd ever made, and unfortunately it resulted in the death of her patient. And it was 8-month-old little baby, Kaya Zotner, I want to say, was, if I'm pronouncing that correct. And then 7 months later, she killed herself. She committed suicide, which is just so tragic and heartbreaking. Then that's where we get that second victim. Second victim phenomena, because there really were 2 victims in this mistake. Kimberly did not go to work that day ill prepared. She did not go to work that day hungover. She did not go to work that day feeling like she was going to do a halfway job, or feeling like, I want to kill one of my patients today. This certainly wasn't malicious. This was a genuine mistake, and it seems like, really one of the best nurses that we had in our field just made a mistake, and unfortunately it resulted in the death of her patient and in her own death, later on.
Right. And I think I remember because I also have read several stories about this, and she was almost immediately fired. And I think that, and I don't want to blame Seattle Children's either, because I mean, they're also a victim in this whole thing too. And now we've all learned so much about this second victim phenomena. But she was fired almost immediately, and she took it hard because she was a good nurse and she was punishing herself, and she ultimately punished herself to death, and that created just so many more victims. Can you imagine the guilt you feel? Like, you're the parents, and I can't imagine how they feel, but I know if I've had people maybe not do the right thing, and I would hate for them to take it so hard that even though like I'm hurting, but now I have to feel guilty that now you're dead too. And then like your coworkers, they lost a good nurse, and not only to their unit, but in general, like that nurse is not around anymore at all. And so her family, just everybody, just like ripples out like the tragedy. It's so sad.
And she didn't get the chance to work past it and work through it and continue to bless and save so many children's lives in her 24-year career. Think of especially an intensive care nurse, which I admittedly, I don't know that if she had been in intensive care her entire career, but regardless, think of how many lives she has saved and how many good calls she had made. But unfortunately, her life literally came down to one judgment call, and she reported it immediately. She didn't try to cover it up. In the interview, it says one of her coworkers at the Times, she was stunned, she was in shock. She immediately told staff at the cardiac ICU where she was working, oh my gosh, I've given too much calcium, and she was obviously in a panic over it, and the patient, of course, still passed, and they were unable to circumvent that and to counteract anything. But I think it showed her, not that she made the mistake. I think that her integrity, that she discovered it on her own, that she reported herself. How many people don't do that? How many people get worried? Even if it's especially I think when it's a small error. Well, I'll just take care of it myself, maybe, and nobody will know. It didn't harm the patient. I don't really need to write this up. And you're just doing a disservice to everybody, your integrity for one. And it really is an educational and a learning opportunity for yourself as well as the unit, because guess what, if you're making that mistake, somebody else might be as well, and especially somebody who doesn't have the experience you do. And if we could help prevent that mistake from becoming a larger one, you're helping people out by that self-reporting. So anyhow, I was impressed by her integrity through this, and she understandably, she became very depressed. And I'm sure, like you said, we're not blaming Seattle Children's. I know there's, when it comes to these Sentinel events, there's, legal teams are definitely involved, and ethics committees, and you have to consider the family of the you have to consider the family of the patient, and perception. We have to prove that, unfortunately, we have to prove that this nurse is competent and that our facility is competent. And so a lot of times there is at least at least a suspension initially during that investigation. And like you said, Carrie, this was back in 2011. I think we've learned a lot about maybe the way things used to be done, and how to handle these things. I think we maybe didn't consider the impact on that individual who made the mistake, and they were kind of treated secondarily. You're not the one who died; you're the one who made this error. But we need to treat them as a second victim and think about the psychological impact of what these things are doing. And maybe there still needs to be a suspension, and maybe, of course, there needs to be an investigation, but make sure they're getting the support that they need, and so they're not feeling alone and they're not feeling blamed in that process.
Absolutely. I think maybe that's worthy of a podcast all by itself at some later point.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I mean, because med errors, not just med errors, but medical errors, they happen. They do, and we've got statistics on them. I think it's like 1 in 7. And we know there's deaths every year from errors. We had a kind of a similar actually situation over in my region a few years ago, in the pediatric realm. There was a patient, it was an infant who received too much potassium, and and they didn't catch the error until the baby had started coding. I think it was a situation where Nurse A had the patient and was really busy and asked Nurse B, "Can you go hang this med?" And Nurse B went and hung the med, and it was the incorrect med for the patient. And the patient started coding and ultimately went into cardiac arrest, and they were unable to revive the patient. It's been a huge learning opportunity for the facilities in our region to look at not just our pediatric practices, but and it's, obviously it's very tragic, and the family, my heart just breaks for them. But unfortunately, we also have to look at it a little more clinically, and a little, kind of take a step back emotionally and say, okay, where did we go wrong?
Right. It's
You know,
almost
did we on our
always a process problem.
Absolutely, that it wasn't that the nurse just was a crappy nurse, was it that they were busy? Was it that there was a bad handoff? Was it, did they not have a MAR easily accessible? Was it improperly labeled? What was the problem, number one? And how can we prevent that? So we've looked at, there's been a pediatric process overhaul, and on all sorts of levels, even in the adult population, and the way potassium bags are now labeled and things like that, and our policy for the administration. And so I as no, that doesn't bring that baby back, and it doesn't give those parents their child, but hopefully it prevents another family from losing a loved one down the road. So
Hey, well, that was a pretty serious nurses in the news.
it is, but I just think that I would love to give Kimberly Hyatt her accolades. I feel that she should be celebrated, and it's just a tragedy. I think she was a phenomenal nurse, and it just seems so sad to me. So I feel that we owe it to her and other nurses who've been in her shoes to address this
I
issue,
agree.
because, and like, related to the incivility, whether it was intentional, and I'm sure
Oh,
that
I'm sure
we
it
all make
wasn't. I'm sure they weren't trying
no,
to kill her.
no, 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 of course not. But we all do. When I heard about this incident in my region, my first thought was like, "Oh, that nurse messed up. I wonder what they, which six right didn't they do?" But we've all been in those situations. Don't judge. Don't judge. We've all had those horribly busy days. We've all made mistakes of one kind or another. And so just, it's such a learning opportunity to not judge, to learn. We can get our facts, we can learn from them, hopefully prevent things in the future, but to support that individual. Because it doesn't have to be the end of their career, and it certainly doesn't have to be the end of their life.
Well, I think that you said that perfectly. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
So we want to hear more about anything, any questions you have, or if you have insight about or questions about the second victim. We'll be doing that on a later podcast, so we can use your questions in the future. And I want to remind everybody to go to statsisters.com. Our website is updated, and we're posting new things to it, so go check it out. Visit us on Patreon.
Yes, it's got a new look.
It does. Go to Patreon and support us there. And we're everywhere on the interwebs. We're on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. We're everywhere.
YouTube.
Oh yeah, YouTube.
You just find. Oh, we're back on iTunes. Whoop, 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 whoop.
Yes.
We got our iTunes glitch all fixed, so we're there for you iTunes users and lovers. We are there. We're on SoundCloud, so please reach out to us. We've had lots of topics that would be great. We'd love to hear about, your nurse week stories. We'd love to hear about your concerns, or maybe your examples of incivility and how you dealt with it, or maybe you're experiencing something right now. Hey guys, how do I deal with this? This situation happened and I don't really know what to do. And so, yeah, please reach out to us. We'd love to hear from you. Thanks for spending some time with us. We love it, as always.
All right. Thank you. Have a good
All
have a
right.
good
We'll talk to
week.
you later.
Bye.
Thanks, you too. Bye.